Welcome back to the Stakeouts and Shakedowns podcast, everybody. This is episode 2, and I feel like that's, I don't know, some kind of milestone. We made it past episode 1. I just wanted to say, first off, right out the jump here, thank you to anybody who's reached out with kind words and encouragement and just told us that you were enjoying the show. I've had several people reach out and tell me that they enjoyed the first episode, and I just really appreciate that. Thanks so much. Also, a few people have given us nice ratings on Apple Podcasts, which I really appreciate. If you're looking for a good way to help the podcast, like one of the best ways that you can help a podcast is to go to something like Apple Podcasts and leave a nice rating, a nice review. It really helps out the podcast and helps us to find listeners. So if that's something that you feel inclined to do, that will be great. And if you're just here to listen, glad to have you. So like I said, we're here for episode 2. We've got a long road ahead of us. One thing I'll mention is since the last episode, I've been doing a lot of research, and I've come up with a very long list, much longer than I initially thought it was going to be, of buddy cop films. Turns out I've got this huge list, and I myself have only seen about 35% of them, and I thought I'd seen a lot. So this will be a learning journey for all of us, and I'm just glad you're here. Speaking of somebody that I am glad is here, my guest for episode number 2 is a longtime friend of mine, probably one of my longest standing friends at this point. It's my good buddy, Donnie Harden. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Hey, Wes, man. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a real honor.
Well, thanks, man. I'm really glad you could be here. I knew basically from the moment that I started this podcast, I knew that you were one of the people I was going to want to have on pretty early on. Like I said, we've just been buds for a long time. You are a frequent member of my movie-going, cinema-haunting posse, so we hang out a lot and talk movies. And also, I was a big fan of your podcast that you used to do with our friend Tarl, Stephen King Rules, all about Stephen King. I am a big horror movie guy, but I feel like horror fans, we all have like our people that we're super into. I was like always a big Romero guy, a big Lucio Fulci guy. But you guys know a lot more about Stephen King than me. So I always really loved listening to the podcast and learning a lot about Stephen King.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's been a while since we had that one. Yeah. As you mentioned, me and my cousin Tarl started it a couple of years ago. It's sort of in its defunct phase right now. You know, we've kind of gone on to other things, gotten busy and all that, but we had a pretty good run. We were able to get out about a baker's dozen worth of episodes, if I recall correctly. And yeah, it was kind of had a sort of format like you're kind of going for here, where we would pick a work. I think we were mainly actually mostly focused on movies and adaptions and everything of Stephen King, and I think we were going to venture into the original source material a little deeper later, but it eventually sort of became sort of a movie podcast on its own.
Well, thanks a lot. And I've known you for a really long time, but the listeners, some may, some may not. And so just other than the podcast, your podcast, maybe just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Oh, sure thing. Yeah. Well, we as you said, me and we've been friends since time out of mind. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. It's definitely been over 20 years now. And I know that, I know both of us have been, we've really bonded over a lot of, over so many different movies, and we're both, we're both very interested in the craft. I know we're both, just like you, I'm a kind of a creative type. I love learning about how things were made. You know, what were some of the behind the scenes stories, where did the ideas come from, a lot of things like that. So I've also, I gotta tell you, when it comes to hobbies and interests and things I do, I'm definitely burning through them at an unsustainable rate at this point. I think if we're talking about podcast things, like I will say that I've really actually gotten rather interested into a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that goes into producing and making podcasts and video casts and things of that nature. So a lot of my time has been going into learning about what are some of the new technologies coming out, and a lot of the stuff is making it a lot easier and a lot more efficient to make a quality podcast or a product for listeners out there. I mean, stuff that we didn't even have 5 years ago. So it's definitely a good, definitely definitely a good time to get into it. But as I'm sure you've already seen, it is a lot of work, isn't it? And
Well,
that's one of
yeah,
my oh
I'm
god.
always thankful to have friends like you and a lot of our other friends, because I'm like probably the least tech savvy millennial of all time. So I always need to lean on my friends to help me figure out all the technical aspects. But yeah, I've been finding it not too bad learning how to do all this, but it's a learning process.
Oh, you've been doing phenomenal, man.
Thanks,
Yeah,
buddy.
that's yeah, and also this is a great example of for anyone else out there that's wanting to put something out there in the world. If you've been working on that, if you got that audio book you've been thinking about doing, or a podcast of your own out there, just the best thing, just best thing to do. Even don't be intimidated. Just best thing to do is just jump right in and start doing it.
So, Donnie, just I mentioned already earlier that you and I are pretty frequent cinema goers. One thing that I think helps an audience at a podcast like this to learn a little bit about who they're listening to is just if you could state some of your favorite films. You're probably like me, where like your favorite list of favorite films, like that could be a whole episode on its own. But like just a handful of like what kinds of movies you enjoy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is one of those things for people like us. It's actually the question that I fear the most when in
Yeah,
a when networking or meet new people is like, "What's your favorite movie?" And I freeze up because I start just really weighing them and everything, and then I usually regret the one that I did say and like, oh yeah. So it's I kind of got I need to work on my kind of my elevator speech for that, or I need to just pick one and go with it, even if it's not the even if there's one I might pick over that or something. But yeah, it is. But there's a it's not. It's also not even just good movies. I'm even a fan of the sort of the activity that I've really enjoyed over the last few years is we could almost call it the sport of bad movie watching. And
Oh,
I'm talking about,
absolutely.
yeah, it's a time honored tradition. I mean, if you go back into the years of like, people talk about like the movie, like Ed Wood's Plan 9 from Outer Space and all
Classic.
that, a lot of the old, good, bad movies. And now our generation has movies like Tommy Wiseau's The Room,
Of course.
and then there's even some lesser known gems that you and I have found out just by picking
Oh.
up tapes and watching them, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Yeah, and there's a fine line too. There's some stuff that's just almost not quite bad enough to come back around to being entertaining and funny bad again, But sometimes you'll find one that is so bad that it's just entertaining to watch,
Oh, yeah,
So
those are some of the best kinds, dude. So I will say though, like talking about like maybe some specific movies, movie that I always associate you with, or at least the franchise, because I'm not sure which one. I always think of you and the Alien franchise. I
Oh
always think of that's a
yes,
big Donnie movie to me, and like The Thing is a big Donnie movie for me
you
when I
got
think
him.
about those movies. And of course, you're a big fan of things like Hunt for the Red October. These are films that I associate with Donnie Harden. These are Donnie Harden films in my mind.
Oh, I'm so glad. Sometimes I think you actually may know me better than I do because and you
That's
just,
how it goes.
yeah, you kind of remember. Yeah, I would say, yeah, one of my favorite recent experiences was seeing The Hunt for October in a theater for the
Yeah, dude.
first time. Yeah, yeah. Our friends at the Carolina Theater of Durham actually put it on recently, and I yeah, and I admit, I was too young when it came out to see it.
Sure.
When it was out for the first time. But the immersive experience you have in there, with it's you almost get to feeling claustrophobic with it because you feel like you're actually kind of in the submarine underwater, and that experience of sort of sharing it with the other moviegoers and in front of just a towering screen that really brings you
Yeah.
in. It
Movie
really
going,
yeah.
movie going is
Oh
a
yeah.
very communal experience, and I always think that's something that
Mhm.
hopefully we're not losing in this day and age with all the streaming. I think that movie going is a very communal experience, so I definitely get that.
Oh
And
yeah.
Donnie, something we were talking about earlier that I didn't think about last week was the audience. Some of them are still getting to know me as well, so I thought maybe I would throw in some of my favorite movies. So I will just say I just real quickly pulled up my Letterboxd account and
Yeah.
just to read off the top four favorites on there, and like already top four, it's not enough. But I will say the ones that I chose when they like held a gun to my head and made me choose four. I put Jaws, classic,
Mhm.
Halloween, the OG, the original, the first Terminator film. Okay, look, I'm a fan of Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, and I know that's a very contentious subject, but I'm a big Terminator 1 guy. And then, of course, a movie that I did mention last time, and I think is very apropos of this podcast, Beverly Hills Cop, one of the all-time great films, just a movie that
Hmm.
I really love. So maybe that'll tell you a little bit about me moving forward, dear listener. So, Donnie, one other thing that I was going to ask you just before we get going is if you have a favorite buddy cop film.
Oh, yeah, it's it's what I hate to be. I hate to sound like the bait, pick the most obvious choice,
I
but thinking
literally just
that
chose Beverly Hills Cop, so don't worry about that.
I gotta say, I gotta go with the original Lethal Weapon. That is
Classic.
to me, that is everything I want out of the buddy cop movie. Out of the, the two people from different sides of the track, two different styles of police officer, the hijinks that ensues, what they learn about from each other. It
Yeah.
is just the perfect movie. It's also a Christmas movie, and
Yep.
it's the one that I feel like everyone seems to forget now. They always think about
Yes.
Die Hard is the
Yes.
seminal action Christmas movie, but everyone forgets Lethal Weapon. It was a Christmas movie too.
Bro, you just
So
got me all hyped up. That's the thing I'm always saying. Why don't we ever think about Lethal Weapon around the holidays? No, you never have to apologize for loving on some Lethal Weapon. This is a safe space for Lethal Weapon love here at Stakeouts and Shakedowns. So that's awesome, dude. And yeah, definitely one of my tops as well. As we go through this podcast, it's one thing I'm trying to be really careful about is because, like you just said, I've dug up like a little over 140 different buddy cop movies, and I haven't even finished yet going through like some of the ones from other countries. But it's real tempting to just always think about the big boys, the Beverly Hills Cops, Lethal Weapons, 48 Hours, Rush Hour, Bad Boys, and all those are wonderful films. But I am trying to make sure to try and space those out and get into some of the unsung gems as well. And so, last thing before we kind of move into our feature presentation for this episode, have you seen anything good lately? And it doesn't have to be anything new, but anything good that you would recommend to the listeners to check out?
All right. It's actually been a rather busy summer. This one, I
I
feel like
hear that.
I cannot. It's one of those things I'm really ashamed of because to me, summer that is movie going time. That's what you do, and I have not been holding up my end of the bargain there. So yeah,
I've seen you around the Carolina quite a bit. You've been going to see some movies.
we've been watching some
The
classics, some
classics.
re-airings. Yes, definitely. But as far as any of the new releases, I haven't got to see a lot. And this is kind of a big summer for movies right here. So I really feel like I am kind of not kind of missing out. But still,
I have been too.
yeah, but the stuff we have been seeing. What was the last few things we saw?
Well, we just saw the Goonies and Fletch on
Oh,
Friday.
Oh gosh, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That's one of the ones that's yeah, I'm definitely seeing some old ones that I kind of know by heart.
Midnight Run. We saw Midnight Run.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. We got the opportunity. I got to see some. One thing that I've been enjoying is seeing a lot of the old movies that I never got the chance to see before. And
Yeah,
Midnight
for
Run
sure.
was amazing. I had a
Yeah.
lot of fun with that one,
Awesome.
and that's and I definitely guess that's another one for the that can be added to the buddy cop list.
Oh, it's
And
on
I'm
the list,
glad,
baby. It's
yeah,
on the list.
yeah. I'm glad there's yeah. So I was really happy to see something kind of like with today's subject is a movie that that I actually had myself never seen before. So
Yep.
yeah, it's sad, and I'm trying to be very careful about that because there's a lot of movies that I just missed, and
Can't
it's going
watch
to
them
get.
all.
Yeah, especially now with in our day and age where there's so much content to choose from, it's almost overwhelming. So, but yeah, even going back to to the olden days or the good old days now, of the 90s and 80s and everything, there's a lot of seminal works that I have not seen, and I'm
Oh
kind of
yeah.
want to save them rather than in some cases if I can avoid renting them, in hopes that maybe some of the local theaters around here might want to dig one of those up and throw it on the screen for a special
Well,
occasion.
we're definitely lucky to
Yeah.
have a lot of cool stuff around here to show those classic movies. The Carolina, the Rialto here in Raleigh. We have an Alamo in Raleigh now that does some good retro screenings. So we're pretty for. And I think the Carolina in Greensboro also does some retro
It
stuff too sometimes.
It does, and actually, I kind of want to
Yeah.
give Carolina Theater Greensboro a shout out
Sure.
because I
Yeah.
actually got to see. I was able to see a few of the old, old age Hollywood movies, classics. Like there's some that I'd never seen before. One is Casablanca. I had
Oh,
never
dude,
seen it
love
before.
it.
Yeah,
Great movie.
that was a great time. That was a great opportunity to be able to see it for the first
Yeah,
time on the big screen.
for
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I saw Ralph Stanley at the Carolina Theater of Greensboro many years ago. So cool. Well, all right, man, that's awesome. And so we're going to take just a little break, and we're going to come back on the other side of that break and talk about tonight's feature presentation.
Trust is a very important commodity in business.
Mr. Colton, I trust this guy with my life.
True that.
They were partners.
Uh-oh, we got company.
Smooth and easy.
Friends.
Everything we do, we split down the middle, right?
Of course we do. We're partners.
But every friendship
You're the only guy I've ever trusted in my entire life.
hits the occasional bump in the road.
You're under arrest.
You better be messing around right
You have
now.
the right to remain silent.
How can you do this
You have
to
the right to
This cost me millions of dollars. Millions. I'm very, very mad.
For Detective Jack Keats,
There he is. Not even a bullet in the head could stop him.
the last man he wants to see
Have you been drinking, sir?
I had about a half a beer, but the dog had a lot.
is the one witness he needs to protect.
He knows my operation from top to bottom.
It's up to you to bring him in, Keats.
You sneeze. If I even smell your breath, I will shoot you dead. How about if I chew loud?
Now they don't know who to trust.
Grab the wheel! Oh my God, the guy looks like a tumbleweed.
And they're on the run.
I got one option first, and it's not very good. Okay, well, what is it? Crash landing, man.
Okay, I'll be in the back sitting on the black box.
From both sides of the law.
You don't trust us all of a sudden?
I don't trust anybody, Whoopi.
Get down!
I gotta learn how to fight. This is pathetic.
Damon Wayans,
Don't mind him. He's simple.
Adam Sandler,
Bet you're glad you gave me that gun.
Bulletproof.
Will you shut up? Shut the hell up!
You'll always be my bodyguard. You know that.
All right, so we are back, and tonight we are talking about the 1996 film Bulletproof. This movie was one that I watched fairly frequently, actually, in the 90s. I had it on VHS, and before streaming, if you had a movie on VHS, you were going to watch it several times. So it's one that I had certainly seen quite a few times, but I don't think I've revisited it in maybe, I don't even want to say how long, many years it'd been since I had seen this film. And so I was wanting to talk about this one. I didn't, when I was starting this all out, I didn't know it would show up so early, but I definitely wanted to talk about this one as one that I remembered from my youth. And Donnie, you had not seen this film before. Is that right?
I had not, and yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that I missed it because this was from that golden age of Adam Sandler when he was kind of really the second coming of comedy, and Damon Wayans, as big as he was with all, I mean, he was a '90s phenomenon as well, really.
Yeah, and I'm actually not surprised that you missed it because it seems like a lot of people missed this one. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. I don't remember how exactly that I ended up with that tape, but that's the reason why I'd seen it. So a little bit about this movie. It was released on September the 6th, 1996. The director of this film was Ernest Dickerson. The score was by a really famous film composer, Elmer Bernstein. The writer was Joe Gayton and also Lewis Kolick. And I have a question here, and I don't think we'll be able to answer it, but we'll talk about this a little bit later too. But possibly Adam Sandler might have had something to do with the script. I'm not sure. He's certainly not credited. So the stars were Damon Wayans, Adam Sandler, James Caan, Kristen Wilson, among many others. And it had a budget of $25 million. And at the box office, it got 22.6 million worldwide, 21.6 million for the US. And so it was a pretty big flop. It was a very unsuccessful film at the box office. I mean, I guess it almost made back its budget, but that's only good in horseshoes and hand grenades. So I will say this, that one thing I found out that was very interesting to me was that it made $6 million in its opening weekend. So it actually opened number one at the box office in September 1996.
That actually tracks to me because I mean, remember how big, Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans were at this time. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we were pretty much watching Billy Madison on repeat
Oh,
by
all
this.
the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, there was what else was there? Oh, Major Pain was a
Yes,
big
dude.
one.
Yes.
That's one
Yes.
that is
Killing
yeah, if
is
you
my
haven't seen that one.
business and business is good. We
Uh-huh.
used to watch Major Payne all the time, dude. Yes. And also, of course, Happy Gilmore, which we're getting a sequel to. Surprise, surprise at the end of this month. So wonder how that'll go.
Oh yeah, and it's really hard to really fully convey and just to really people help people
Yeah.
understand how big these guys were at this time and just how funny it was. I mean,
Yeah.
they're both veterans of sketch comedy. But for one, Adam Sandler, of course, Saturday Night Live, but the other, Damon Wayans is, I mean. In Living Color was always on our sets on
Yeah.
every night. That was the big one for us, and even it was actually kind of overshadowed as far as that kind of sketch comedy goes for a while. For a little bit there, it actually overshadowed Saturday Night Live, and yeah, and actually yes, they are both Saturday Night Live alumni as
Oh,
well.
I
That was
guess somehow I didn't realize Damon Wayans had been on SNL.
for
That's
a short time, very short time.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's only a few sketches, and I feel like and we've heard a lot of actors and comedians talk about this that the Saturday Night Live environment is it's not for everybody, and it's
Yeah.
also sometimes it's got its own problems. It's not as great as it's cracked up to be, and with what the Wayans brothers put together on A Living Color, I mean, I feel like it was the right. It was that was definitely a much more funny home, and say it was the same for Jim Carrey actually
Oh yeah,
was also one of the famous ones who
for sure.
that didn't that could have been on Saturday Night Live, but was not offered the was not offered the role after his audition, and but he found a home on In Living Color, and as we've seen, just how huge that was. That's another example of just how big some of these people
Yeah.
were and got in the '90s. I mean, it was something, and those I don't say a lot of. Television at the time, was really where a lot of the talent would come from. I don't know if it's quite the same nowadays or not, but
Well, the lines are so blurred now between television and film. I mean, when you have like Netflix becoming one of the major film studios and stuff, the lines are much more blurred now than they were once upon a time, I think. But yeah, television in the 90s, and especially sketch comedy, was a big proving ground for people who would become major stars. And what you just said, I mean, pretty much encompasses it, right? At least for me and the people I knew in the mid 90s, like Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler were the kings of comedy for us. When I was a little bit younger, it was Jim Carrey, and then when I got just a little older, I transitioned to a major Adam Sandler guy.
Yeah, and
Did I just call him Billy Madison? I might have called him Billy Madison.
I still do. That's one of the. It's one of the just. It's hard to really separate him from a lot of those characters, and especially from when we were watching. And it's one of those things. We've been seeing a little bit less from Jim Carrey these days. I'm just saying. I know Jim Carrey wasn't involved in this movie. I'm just saying when it comes to some of the big stars of this era and everything. But it seems like we haven't seen quite as much on the radar from him and Damon Wayans as we've used to. I think Damon Wayans is still doing stuff and everything, but I feel like still out of all these right now, it's kind of Adam Sandler who's still in kind of in the zeitgeist, and I think that's really because he kind of went on and became a kind of a filmmaker himself, and really started he's kind of a media juggernaut now.
And he's sort of had a career comeback with Uncut Gems. Did you see Uncut Gems?
I did not, and now I want to.
Everybody said it was really good, so I actually really want to see it as well. Supposedly he's great at it, and I think that really kind of helped to reboot his career. But like you said, he had been involved in pretty major projects, even behind the scenes. Like I think about Funny People Hospital and stuff like that, where he was kind of the main dude putting all that together. And he got the Happy Madison thing going. So he sort of like made himself into a major player in the comedy world.
Yeah, and some of the stuff, even as years went on, like some of the stuff came out wasn't really my kind of funny or whatsoever, or even some of our tastes have even changed, but the products are still very, very good, really. I mean, a lot of good stuff, and just that I kind of really like him because of all the work that he's done to put together something like this. I've always told you that I was always a fan of actors and artists and everything that also create as well, or do some behind the scenes stuff, or have an interest in it. I always felt had a special interest in them, and
Well,
also
it's
kind of
cool
related
because
to them better. Yeah,
people like that put their sort of unique stamp on their projects, so you kind of get a feel for what their brand is when they're kind of behind the scenes doing a lot of that. They kind of put their unique stamp on it, so you come to really know what to expect from a project like that. So speaking about this movie, I will say one other thing that I'll mention, and this probably will come as no surprise as we discuss Bulletproof, is that the Rotten Tomatoes for this had a 44% audience rating, but an 8% critic rating. So not only was it a failure at the box office, it was definitely no one's idea of a critical darling when Bulletproof came out. So I'm sure that doesn't surprise you.
No, I will say this. Listen, man, I will admit, I saw this one for this first time. I didn't think it was a perfect movie or anything like that, but I was well entertained and had fun, and I'm actually I'm kind of surprised that it has that low of a score. I mean, I've seen stuff that's, I've seen stuff with scores, that I've seen worse things that have had higher scores. At least I think I have. But
well,
yeah,
I think the audience score maybe surprises me. The critical one, not as much. I mean, even the major Adam Sandler projects we were just talking about were not loved by critics. Billy Madison, which at one point I would have told you, not anymore.
Oh, you're kidding!
But I would have told you was the most funny movie I'd ever seen. It was not loved by critics. Happy Gilmore, not loved by critics. So the critics never were huge Adam Sandler people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
But they were at least commercially successful, whereas this film was not. So a little bit, I'm going to read the plot description. So once inseparable pals, Archie Moses, played by Adam Sandler, and Keats, or we find out Carter, spoiler alert, played by Damon Wayans, find themselves on opposite sides of the law, each feeling betrayed by the other. In fact, the only person who hates them more than they hate each other is the ruthless drug pen, played by James Caan, who wants to put them both 6 feet under. Now, through a strange twist of fate, Moses and Keats are on the run, together. With a little luck, the bungling boys just might get out of this one alive, if they don't kill each other first. So there's your plot description for Bulletproof. So basically, what this movie is for people who hopefully everybody's watched it. If you're listening, but you know what? There's times I listen to film podcasts and I haven't seen the movie, and I just am like, hey, I'm here for the discussion. So just in case you haven't seen it, what this movie is it starts off with Damon Wayans and Adam Sandler. They are committing a crime. It's Grand Theft Auto that they're committing together. And we find out that they are basically a stick-up crew. They rob cars. They steal cars together. I guess they're not sticking people up. They steal cars together. And then
carjacking.
Yeah, they're a carjacking crew.
No, it's like oh wait, no, it's not carjacking. Anyway, it's one of those.
They're stealing cars. They're stealing.
We don't
cars,
know. So. We don't know our crimes very well. We gotta work on
you think I should, as much Law and Order as I watch, but
true.
So they're robbing these cars, and then Damon Wayans kind of intentionally it sort of insinuates himself into Adam Sandler, who's playing Archie Moses, into his dealings with a major player in the drug world named Frank Colton, who's played by, we found out he's like a big car dealer, but he's also a major drug dealer, and and Archie works for him. And so Archie Moses, played by Adam Sandler, brings Keats into this whole situation. He's like, I trust him. He makes a huge thing about, I trust this guy with my life. I trust him so much. And he brings him in. Well, it turns out, after all, Damon Wayans is an undercover cop. And so he tries to bust the thing. It all goes bad when Adam Sandler accidentally uncovers the wire that Wayans is wearing, and everything goes bad. And during the course of this, Sandler accidentally shoots Damon Wayans in the head, but he lives. And after he recovers, he's got a real chip on his shoulder. And it turns out that that Archie Moses is stopped for drunk driving, gets picked up by the police, and agrees to turn state's evidence. I guess he doesn't really have another choice, and he's insistent that that his former friend and betrayer Keats, who, like I said, we find out is actually Detective Carter, be the one to bring him in. And then during the course of all this, hilarity ensues. They have a lot of problems. The Colton's men are on their tail the whole time, chasing them. We have all kinds of chase scenes, shootouts, a lot of hiding out situation, and so just adventures happen until at the very end they kind of come together to take down Colton, and Damon Wayans lets Adam Sandler slip off into the night as a thank you for helping him win the day. So that's Bulletproof. So what were your overall, this is your first time watching, what were your overall impressions of this film? Just to start us off.
Yeah, this one, it's I definitely had fun with it. It was entertained. I won't put it as one of my favorites as far as what we've seen so far, and as far as buddy cop movies go. But I will say, I think I might have told you in discussions before how much of a fan I am of road movies.
Oh, yeah.
of buddies going together, and I guess also this is. This as far as buddy cop movies go. One of them is not a cop. One of them is, but I feel like on this cast, it's the thought that counts, and you can do whatever you want with,
and that's
with
a pretty common
buddies.
thing.
Yeah.
Even 48 Hours, that we talked about on the last episode, so sort of the father of the genre. One was a cop, one was a criminal. So that's pretty common trope in these films.
But it feels right. It feels like it has the right DNA anyway. And like I said, love two people love that are kind of put together and have to go through a lot of all sorts of hijinks or what have you, but there's a little bit of an odd couple thing going where one of them is one way, one of them's another way. They clash, it has a lot of the things I love. And I definitely found myself laughing, as well as being interested in the dramatic aspects of it.
Yeah.
So
I'll say for me, I'm kind of the same as you on that. Like, I really had fun with this movie. So I need to say from the jump that I am a fan of this movie. I was a fan of it when it came out. I watched it quite a bit when I was younger, but then I forgot about it for quite some time. And I mean, I would think about it on occasion, but I just it wasn't always on my radar. And I think that's kind of how I would describe this movie. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun popcorn movie to sit down. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I own it. I wish I still had that tape. Now I have it on Blu-ray. It's a fun movie. I had a good time. I can't really put my finger on anything that's wrong with it, but on the whole, I feel like it's mildly forgettable. It's not going to stand out in your mind. That being said, my philosophy as a movie watcher is that not every movie has to be Casablanca. Not every movie has to be the greatest film you've ever seen. Sometimes you want to sit down at night after a hard day's work, turn your brain off, and watch a movie and just have fun with it. And I think this movie definitely works for that, in my opinion. So the reason that I think it didn't fare very well over the years, wasn't super successful at the box office, is it just feels, and I'm kind of borrowing this from the Siskel and Ebert review at the time, they said it felt very formulaic. And I think so. I think this movie feels like it was really following the buddy cop formula. In fact, I got this from IMDb, so I can't verify that this is real or not. It was in the trivia section, but somebody said that the director, Ernest Dickerson, had described it as trying to be 48 Hours for the 1990s. And I definitely could see that. It just was missing some of the magic that made 48 Hours such a classic.
Yeah, and I couldn't really. I gotta tell you, I was trying to exactly really put my finger on what it was that just wasn't quite catching me the same way that some of the other movies that we've watched have done. But I mean. Well, one thing I was actually kind of surprised at how hard it was to find just to watch. I mean,
really?
It wasn't. It wasn't really on any streaming services or anything like that. So, like you, I ordered it on Blu-ray, of course, and just popped it into the machine. And
it was a cheap Blu-ray. It was like $6 for me.
And that was after, because after I had already, I actually thought I found it on streaming earlier and got about 20 minutes into the movie in question and realized I was watching the wrong movie. I was actually watching
you watched the 80s one.
No, I was actually watching Bulletproof Monk. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Chow Yun Fat, is that who's in that?
It was fun. I was like, well, as I get into it, I was like, gosh, I kind of don't want to cut
is it
this
Jet
one
Li?
off. No, it's Chow Yun Fat.
Chow
You're
Yun Fat,
right.
okay.
I'm just like, ooh, I kind of want to watch the rest of this one
Look,
because
man,
yeah,
I'm a
it's like
big
I'll
Chow
come
Yun
through.
Fat guy as well. I really like. I haven't seen that one though. There's also an '80s movie that I think has Gary Busey called Bulletproof. But I think this one is available for rent on Amazon streaming and things like that. So I think if you're willing to cough up a couple bucks, I think you can find it. But
Oh yeah. I think it'll only be like $3, $4
of course,
at
like
that.
I said, I only paid a few dollars extra to get the Blu-ray. So yeah. But I was like you. The whole time I was watching it, I just thought I can't put my finger on what it is about this. I think it was just sort of like I said, it was nothing really bad, and it was nothing super standout. It was just sort of it was formula movie, and it just kind of did what it was doing, and it was a good watch. And then afterwards, it's kind of forgettable. So I will say Ernest Dickerson, who I found out actually directed another movie that I really liked, or maybe he. Maybe he was a cinematographer because he got started as a cinematographer. I can't remember. I think he directed it though. A movie called Surviving the Game, which is sort of a most dangerous game kind of thing, starring Ice-T. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I really like that one a lot. But yeah, so he directed that one. But anyway, Ernest Dickerson said that this movie was castrated by producers, and he said he'd like to erase the whole experience. That part I can verify because I tracked down that interview. It was actually not an interview about this movie. I had a really hard time finding any research materials. There's no commentary track on the on the Blu-ray. There's not really a lot out there about the making of the film. So usually I try to put in a little research and find out some deep dives on this stuff, but I couldn't find much other than the fact that Ernest Dickerson said he'd like to erase the whole experience. So he at least is not a big fan of this film.
Yeah, and it's funny how on paper I would have thought, especially if we were talking about back in the '90s, I'd be like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, you put Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans together in a cop drama, so to speak. Oh, it's got to be, that's a gold mine right there. How could that not be fun and hilarious? Like top one of the top 5 movies of the year, But and I definitely don't have any problem with something formulaic. When I want to go to a buddy crime movie, I'm going in to watch a fun buddy crime movie. And it's like you said, I'm not expecting I'm not expecting a Citizen Kane or Casablanca or anything like that. It's but still, it's one of those things. Yeah, I just couldn't quite put my finger on what was not working. It felt like something wasn't working while I was watching, and maybe it's just sometimes some of it can be lost in editing. Some of it can be in some of it can have to do with some of the narrative decisions. It did look like there was a good deal of like I think I saw a few instances of what looked like some obvious ADR where they put in some lines with that they may have rearranged some things. Like you said, I couldn't really find really much about this one either, and that's rare for us. Usually, we're able to find a lot of background on a lot of films, and also, as far as being able to discuss this one, being that it's a new watch, like this one that I haven't committed to memory, where I know the characters by name by heart or some of the backgrounds. So but it's a little bit frustrating to be trying to dig around and not really find much about it, especially because it's one of those things that really seems like it should have shoot, even for making it should have been, at least from the from the on-set stuff, should have been a good experience, because what I understand, both Damon Wayans and Adam Sandler are very good actors to work with and stuff.
Yeah,
so
it seems like they got along well. It seems like they got along well, and the one quote I found from James Caan seems like they got along fine with James Caan as well. So I don't think any behind the scenes animosity was behind it at all. So speaking about what you just said, you were saying you were surprised, because just this cast alone, you would think would have made it a big hit film in 1996. So let's talk a little bit about the cast, and let's talk a little bit first off about Damon Wayans. So Damon Wayans is somebody who I like. Pretty much, if I see Damon Wayans in something, I'm like, this is going to be pretty good, I would assume, especially around that time. He had been, as you said, he had been one of the founding people who started the show In Living Color, which was a really popular sketch comedy show in the 1990s. Now, you know a lot more about In Living Color, I think, than me. As we were actually talking about this at the movies the other day, and you were saying about how you had been a big fan of In Living Color, whereas I pretty much stayed a Saturday Night Live guy with a brief foray into Mad TV for a little while. But so he had been on In Living Color, and he'd been very successful in that. Apparently, he left in 1992 to pursue his film career. So he did a string of films in the 90s. I can't claim to have seen them all. I wrote down a few here: The Last Boy Scout, Mo Money, Major Payne, and the two other films that he had that at least released the same year as Bulletproof were Celtic Pride. I'm a history nerd, so I always want to say Celtic Pride, but I know it's a sports movie, so it's Celtic Pride, and The Great White Hype. Neither of which I have seen. But I have seen Major Payne and I have seen The Last Boy Scout, and I really like both of those. The Last Boy Scout's 1991. I can't remember Major Payne. It's between that and Bulletproof. It's like 94 or something. So yeah, what do you think about Damon Wayans in this film?
Actually, that may have be one of the things that I gotta say that might have been one of the weak spots of this.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm so, and it's not one of those things like, I believe he can play a straight man and everything like, and what I mean, just the, the more button down type, more serious type, the comedy one, but it felt like this was like almost too bland and boring. It just didn't seem like him, I guess. Not even not even his serious tone, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know what got lost there.
Well, I think it's interesting because, and I think maybe now that I'm hearing you talk about it, we might have meant different things, but you and I both had in our notes something about Damon Wayans as a straight man. And so that's the reason why I do think that Damon Wayans playing the straight man in this comedy duo, because, it's sort of like the classic Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy formula of a straight man. Oh, never should I leave out Martin and Lewis, one of my faves, but, kind of the straight man and the goof off, the crack up. And so in this one, obviously Sandler is the goofy guy. Damon Wayans is playing the straight man. And I too think he struggled a little bit to play the straight man in this. And I think for me, so I was thinking about it. It's been a little while since I've revisited The Last Boy Scout, which is another buddy cop movie that I really like quite a lot. But in that one, they're not really quite so well defined as like the straight man and the crack up as they are in this one. But he's sort of playing the goofier character. But even then, he's kind of angry and straightforward. So I know he doesn't have to just be a comic all the time. But in this one, it was almost like he was kind of chafing at being the straight man to me. It was like every once in a while, it seemed like he wanted to throw in the funny stuff too. So it was like it was hard for him to let Sandler, and I mean, that might not be his fault. That might be the writing, but it was almost like it was hard not to let Damon Wayans kind of slip over into that funny role every once in a while. So he just seemed not settled into his role for me, into his performance in this.
Yeah, and like we said, this is one of those cases where since we can't really find much about the making of it, or we can't even really. I didn't even see really any evidence of where there were deleted scenes or
nothing on us
re-engineering. Yeah, so for all we know, there could be entire other cuts or scenes or whatever where that were much more natural. It may have just been just the way he was, just the way he was framed, so to speak, or just the takes that were chosen for it. You really never. I definitely don't want to can't hold Damon Wayans or hold any performance stuff against them. But I mean, it just seems like something he should be. Yeah, he should be able to
you
bring
compare it to
the
a film
man.
like you compare it to a film like Major Payne when he's goofing off and doing character work. He is so good and so funny in Major Payne. You know what I mean? I just feel like this movie unfortunately didn't play to his strengths. But I will say one line that he says that makes me laugh so much is when they're getting on this plane and their pilot gets shot. And fortunately, we find out that Archie Moses can fly a plane a little. So he gets up there, he's flying the plane, and it's in just like a nosedive. And he's got to pull it up. And so they're pulling up. And at one point, Damon Wayans says, "I can actually taste my nuts." And I laughed so hard at that line when I was watching it. I guess I have a juvenile sense of humor, which I will say another thing about this movie is it has a pretty juvenile sense of humor, which was perfect for me at the time. This comes out, I'm, an early teenager when this comes out. So this is the perfect time for me to be laughing at juvenile humor. But I thought that line was so funny, even in rewatch.
Oh, God.
That's what I mean. So in that moment, his comedy shines through, but he's not the cut up in this movie. So it just felt like his role was a little off balance to me.
I agree, and it's Yeah, it's one of those things that I just felt myself like I want to see breakout crazy Damon Wayans a little bit more,
Yeah,
or just the funny stuff, and also even it almost seemed like Sandler kind of wanted that too, because Sandler kind of was just his probably his most juvenile, most
Oh yeah.
yeah itself. Yeah, and
I will say, yeah.
listen, I kind of miss that. There. I mean, I know both of us. We've talked about what's funny, what's not. And everyone has different ideas, but
Sure, of
I'm
course.
like, yeah. I think both of us, we're guys. We can laugh at stupid, first
I have a
grade
very
humor and everything.
lowbrow sense of
Yeah,
humor.
and yeah, sometimes even the upper brow sense of humor, I feel like it might be is kind of overrated. But we like
Sure.
our smart. And this kind of harkened back to some of the when we're talking about Adam Sandler, but during this period, when he was, I think he was already out of Saturday Night Live, but around in the early '90s, so he did release these comedy albums that are still. I'm sorry, I still laugh my butt. I don't care how mature they are. I laugh my butt off. What was it? They're all gonna laugh at you. That was one. Yeah, and what the hell happened to me? I want to cue those up because it feels like there is a lot of when he was doing that kind of stuff in this. I mean, nowadays a lot of stuff he's in and everything. I mean, he runs the spectrum. I know he does a lot of he does some more family friendly movies.
Well,
and
later.
stuff. Later. Yeah, that's what I mean later. But but now, but it's kind of funny to see this some of this. Some of this more crass humor and everything.
Well, and he's more crass. He's more crass in this, sort of like he is on the stand-up albums, even than he was in his kind of bigger hit movies.
Yeah.
He's more crass in this than he is in a Happy Gilmore or a why can't I think of Billy Madison or even one like I just remembered The Wedding Singer. I hadn't even thought about that. I didn't even list when he did that one. But now that we're talking about Sandler, now I thought he was good in this. He was, as you just said, a huge comedy star at this time, and he had already found his footing. I mean, he had been in Airheads in '94, which I love Airheads. He had been in Billy Madison in '95. He had been already in Happy Gilmore, because Happy Gilmore was released earlier in the year. It was released the same year as Bulletproof, but it was released in February, whereas this film, Bulletproof, was released in September. And then, of course, he would go on to do The Waterboy and The Wedding Singer and Big Daddy and movies like that. But I thought he was really good in this. But like you said, he leaned back into his like crass stand-up style, and I think it just fit him. He felt like he fit better into his role.
I wouldn't mind seeing something that really harkens back to this era of Adam Sandler, where it was still, just really far out of left field comedy and just crass as he wants to be. It was he had no filter in this period. Now
we'll see how Happy Gilmore 2 comes out. I mean, I have high hopes. I'm one of these people, though. I'll confess, like, I'm a sucker for when my favorites come back and do the stuff that I loved. I've had some disagreements with people over Axel F. But I thought Axel F was.
It was great.
Loved it, but I know
those people are wrong.
I agree.
They're wrong.
They are wrong.
They're wrong.
Everybody's got their opinion, but some of them, unfortunately, are wrong. I'm already like geared to like Happy Gilmore 2. Hopefully, it'll be good. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, Sandler was big at the time, and so I thought he did good. Now, I will say, if I had a criticism of him in this movie, in the last episode, Mo and I talked about 48 Hours, and that was Eddie Murphy's breakout role, and he had been a comic. He had been on SNL. But I thought he really had the chops of not only a comedian, but an action star, in that he handled the action well. And I do think that Adam Sandler didn't really get in a lot of action here. He did some shooting and stuff like that, but most of like the really jumping across the tables and stuff, Damon Wayans took care of that stuff. Sandler stuck mostly to the comedy. He didn't play into the action in the same way that somebody like an Eddie Murphy would have done in other movies. Not that you can compare everyone to Eddie Murphy, because let's be honest, he's the king. But
exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about as far as where Adam Sandler being even not just doing action segments, but also let's say serious segments or something like that.
Which once again he grew into. He grew into
it later. Yeah, maybe just at this time, this period, wasn't really the time for him to do that yet. But as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of his later stuff I've seen. And I really felt that he probably had, even at this time, had more range than he maybe even himself thought,
Sure, or that he'd been given an opportunity. He's one of those people that early on he kind of got plugged into that role. He was so Billy Madison might not have been critically a darling, but it was commercially successful, and in the end, cash is king when you're doing that stuff. So he's done these movies. They want to see more of these movies, and it probably took him a while to build up enough clout to kind of spread his wings a little.
Yeah, that's what I will say. One thing I kind of like about buddy movies, generally buddy cop, this sort of thing is, I feel like it's a unique place where comedy and action or comedy and drama get to overlap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I really like. I like when people who are usually the funny man or the funny guy or the funny girl or what have you, and they will do something different outside their usual what they usually.
Sure.
They can. It's so many times they can. It's almost a phenomenon. I bet there's plenty of people that have seen a lot more patterns and have probably it's probably a solid case has been made by someone else. But I personally, it seems like a lot of comedy actors or a lot of people that are known for comedy roles, I have a hard time finding ones where they don't do well in a more serious role or an action role or what have you. I wonder if there is a connection to that, because I guess one example, I think you and I were talking about the late great Robin Williams the other day and all his and his impact on people of our generation and everything, and a lot of the movies like that. And I found that in his later years, a lot of stuff when he would take on a serious role or whatever was some of his best work, in my opinion.
And I think that speaks to the quality of the actor. I mean, Robin Williams, great actor, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I don't think that every comedian can be thrust into a serious, whether it be action, drama, whatever role, and be successful in much the same way that I don't think every great action star can be thrust into a comedic setting. I mean, there are people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, in my opinion, does great in comedic roles. He has a comedic timing. He has a sense of being able to sort of poke fun at himself. And I think Schwarzenegger really took well to more like action comedy type roles later, personally. Then you have somebody like Stallone, who, while I may personally enjoy Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, it was certainly not as successful as a Kindergarten Cop or something like that, a Last Action Hero. And also, then you have people who I really love as action stars like Dolph Lundgren, who I'm just going to be honest. Anytime he tries to do a movie, like he was in Kindergarten Cop 2, comedy's not his strength. Action is his strength. And I like when he leans into that. So, but there are some people who can cross over, and it's really nice to see.
Well, you and I will definitely say, I got to agree with you on that point, at least from the action star or action more people that are more associated with action movies or actors that just that's their thing, more drama and more action. I can say right here already, I can think of a lot of folks that I'm like, they're not going to be well at comedy, and some are actively oh gosh, a lot of them can't.
No.
There's who I'm thinking of, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Steven Seagal. It seemed like that man could not
zero sense of self.
No sense of humor, or if he did have a sense of humor, it was kind of a strange sense of humor, I guess. But also, and also, I think he really took himself. It was one of those cases that might have taken himself almost too seriously, so to speak, and it was almost sad because I could almost see him being funny if he would put his mind to it. But he actively, as we've seen, I think he actively did not want to be seen as anything but Mr. Tough Guy, Mr. the best all the time.
His failed SNL episode is pretty good evidence of that. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of his early works, obviously as an action star, but certainly no sense of comedy, at least that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of his. So next star I wanted to talk about is a guy who I feel like is underutilized in this movie, and that is the great James Caan. James Caan as the heavy in this, a great actor. I just felt like he pops up a handful of times, and when he does, he's great, but just really underused in this.
Yeah, it's gosh, James Caan is someone that it was when watching this, it was like, I think that role is not big enough for him.
No.
They don't give him enough to do.
I mean, he would have been such a wonderful heavy. And they just, I mean, I know you can't have the heavy in the scenes all the time, but I felt like, for example, in the last movie, the villains were in 48 Hours. That's the last movie. And if you guys haven't listened to that episode, hey, go ahead and go back and do that next. But I just felt like those villains, you just thought like, man, they're doing so well in this. And there was a part at the end when James Caan showed back up in this, and I was like, oh yeah, James Caan's in this. Like, I just felt like they just didn't use him enough.
They didn't do that. Didn't seem to have a very compelling backstory. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess again, one of those things I can't really put my finger on 100%. But it did feel like, it felt like he would have been better had they given someone a little bit more of a compelling story.
Yeah, he's a cutout. He's a cardboard cutout.
He's like a cutout. Yeah. And sometimes that's fine,
Sure.
some people could do it, but I feel like that not for them. They could have probably also had more fun with this too. Some of these movies I've seen actually will go and spend a good deal of time on the bad guy or the heavy and let them do stuff. Yeah, and I feel like we didn't get. It almost felt like the movie could have, you could about cut all those scenes out of the movie of where he's involved, and you wouldn't lose very much. So I feel like they just underused them. Yeah,
I mean, you got Sonny Corleone in your picture here, man. Make use of make use of James Caan. And I did write down some of his roles just because I was like, to me, he's just a huge. He's Sonny in The Godfather. He was in Howard Hawks' El Dorado with John Wayne, and Robert Mitchum, which is a film that I really like. It's sort of a sort of remake of Rio Bravo, which is one of my all-time favorite westerns. But so he's in El Dorado. He's in Misery, which I thought of for you because of your Stephen King rules chops.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
And he's in Thief, which is a film that I hate to admit that I've never seen.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I recently got to see Thief for the first time. I think it may have even released under a different title.
Oh, interesting.
I can't remember. I may even be flubbing that up. I may be misremembering, but it seemed like it was one of those that I actually didn't hear about until rather recently. And it's a must watch, especially for any.
Yeah, I want to see it.
I think anyone would have a good time with that movie as well.
Well, and I'm something of a movie score aficionado, as you know, and it's got that Tangerine Dream.
Oh, Tangerine Dream! Yeah, the score is fantastic.
Yeah, so I definitely want to see that film soon. So, just real briefly here, talking about now we've talked about the stars a little. What were some of your either favorite or least favorite scenes from Bulletproof?
Well, I don't know if I'll call it my favorite, but my senses were triggered when they do the sort of the formulaic or the trope where they take our heroes to a hideout or and it's a warehouse. It's like a
oh yeah.
And I'm just looking at that. I'm like, oh, they took him to the RoboCop warehouse. Okay,
so I saw that in your notes. So it wasn't actually the RoboCop warehouse. It reminded you of it, or was it really?
No, I don't think so. But it just reminds me of that. It's just I don't know. It's just one of those tropes that I just get in my head where it's like,
I love it.
Where can you just go to if I mean one of the things if I were to start henchmaning or
sure,
whatever, it's like I don't even know if I'd be able to find a rundown, cool looking, foreboding, kind of place that like an old steel factory or whatever.
Yeah,
are there listings?
Are there listings for bad guy warehouses on Craigslist or something? I don't know, but you're right.
There should be
ubiquitous setting for that kind of scene, and I thought it was great too. So I hear you on that one.
Yeah, and it definitely looked like the one it was one of those things where it's like, oh, something our heroes are going to be in trouble here. When you bring something like this, and then you have all the lackeys lined up with their guns and everything. It's just it's just one of those usual things. This is where
classic action.
Classic action. This is where it's going to be revealed that he's a wearing a wire, so to speak. Other things I did like, I did like the time when they spent. What was the name of the town they spent the time in?
Beaver Pelt.
Beaver Pelt. Definitely. I love anything. This kind of harkens back to on the road movies that we love, like
Yes.
we would watch Midnight Run, or even a movie that wasn't a crime drama, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles,
Absolutely.
where it's still. One thing that cracks me up anytime is where two men that have to, that just are either opposite sides of the law, or just like two complete opposites, have to share a motel room together, and just how
Always
they
hilarious.
clash. That's just always a place for good comedy right there. And of course, always, and every one of these rundown motels, there's always a funny person running it that's got something that's just a punchline in themselves.
Charlie, is it?
This guy, I can't remember his name.
It's Charlie.
If that archetype of a character has, I think I'm going to have to get a list going. I think I can at least list 4 different people playing that character across several different movies and possibly TV shows. And probably the TV show Schitt's Creek is coming to mind, that I watched quite a bit.
I've never seen that.
Years ago.
People
It's
say
a funny
good.
one. Yeah. It's
People say
definitely
it's
got. Oh yeah, definitely in the the old backwoods town kind of thing, where the people, the general cast of characters that live in the little town and everything, but it always seems like the people running the little motel, there's always something captivating about them, or funny, or stand out. So,
And let's give it up.
Yeah,
Let's give it up for Mark Roberts as Charles in this movie. Great job.
Well
done. As the pervy innkeeper Charles. Yeah,
he was so weird, man.
Yeah, but so good. And his interactions, that's what I was going to say. So that's one of my favorite scenes from this film, is the hunting lodge scene. Over the years, when I've thought back about this movie, and I don't know what it says about me, but that is the scene that I always remember. It was them in the hunting lodge. I had not really thought about it, like you said, a sort of a planes, trains, and automobiles thing. But as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, absolutely. I loved it at the time, obviously, because I really enjoyed the crass Adam Sandler humor. I would always
he was funny. Yeah.
I would always think about him talking to Charles. He's like, Charlie, is it? And he's like, heard you got a lot of porn here. That's good. I like the porno. And like, I always thought that was really funny. And
him messing with Charles was the best.
Well, and Charles goes, oh, well, good. And then like I like the part when he's like, you, me, your wife, a little sandwich action. That always made me laugh. And like, the one line I always remembered is when they're in the hotel room and he's like, this is a 70s porno, I can tell.
The sideburns.
Guy's dick has sideburns. So I was like, I just, all those lines when I was a kid I thought were so funny. And it's kind of, that was the Adam Sandler of time period. So that really stood out to me, that whole scene. And also another of my favorite scenes from this movie was the final kind of shootout in the bad guy mansion, which turns out, I can't 100% verify this, but in my research I found, once again, if we can trust the IMDb trivia section, apparently that is the same bad guy mansion from Beverly Hills Cop, from the end of Beverly Hills Cop, their final shootout scene.
I trust the IMDb trivia section
of course.
Of my life.
If you can't trust nerds on the internet, who can you trust? But yeah, so I really liked that, though, because once again, it did remind me of a lot of my favorite shootout scenes from these movies, like the Beverly Hills Cop closing scene and stuff like that. So yeah, those are probably my favorite scenes. But like you, I really enjoyed all the classic action elements. I really loved the scene where the plane was crashing. I thought that was played very well. As soon as I was watching it, I remembered the part where the plane is perched on the edge of the cliff and it's going to fall off. That's something you've seen in other films before, but I thought it was done really well.
Oh, I've always loved those bits. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause they did a good job of building the tension there. And I felt tense in that moment. I mean, nothing bad's going to probably happen to them. And then, one little fella, I'll say, I just thought about this. I loved when they reintroduced the dog, Little Keats, and he was showing him like how to shoot and play dead and all that, just as a way to like rub it in Damon Wayans' face. I loved that dog. He wasn't credited, the dog. A lot of times they are in the credits. I didn't see him credited in there unless I missed it.
Oh, dang. I thought maybe he was like the old, when we were going, the Budweiser dog. What was his name?
I don't know.
Spuds McKenzie was
okay, I remember that.
Yeah. He was the same kind of dog. Yeah. One of those,
but I love that
those
little
bull
dog.
terriers. Oh, God. He was so cute. Oh, God. I was glad he, I was glad he made it through. It was one of those things I was hoping he would come back, but,
and he's having a great time at the end.
Oh gosh, yeah, gonna have. Yeah, he was almost like. I'm glad they kind of gave him such a nice role in the movie.
I
I
only
think. Yeah.
I only had one beer, but the dog had a lot. Yeah, so yeah, awesome. And so kind of wrapping up here, one thing I never like to finish talking about a movie without talking about is the score, and in this instance, also the soundtrack. So this movie had a score by Elmer Bernstein, who was a very famous composer. He had done a lot of stuff. I mean, I just wrote down a few of them here, but I mean, just he did the music for the Ten Commandments, the Magnificent Seven, To Kill a Mockingbird, the original True Grit, Trading Places, Ghostbusters, The Blues Brothers, Stripes. I mean, this is a guy who did a lot of great movies and a lot of great music. He's not one that like is in my kind of go-to canon, like a Faltermeyer or James Horner or a Fabio Frizzi, John Carpenter, but he's a name that I certainly immediately recognized and have really enjoyed his music, especially in The Magnificent Seven stands out to me as having a particularly cool theme song. And obviously, like I said, he did all the music in the score music for Ghostbusters. Do you have any thoughts about the score for this movie?
Well, yeah, actually, since you mentioned, I didn't know that about Elmer Bernstein, that he did, that his catalog goes as far back
Oh
as you
yeah,
said. Now, yeah, and I would say that some people actually say that the score in the original Ghostbusters, it's almost as iconic to be almost to be a character in itself. It's
dump, 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 dump. That's what.
it was one of the things that a lot of people said were complaining was lacking in the second Ghostbusters and everything.
Ah,
There's a lot of there's a lot of themes that you get that once you take them away, if you were to listen to the movie without it, it's like, whoa,
oh
something's
yeah.
missing here. So definitely, definitely a fat score. Also, the soundtrack, just the
Yeah.
artists that contribute. I gotta tell you, I want the CD for one
Well,
thing.
you can
For
get
just
it
on
on
the list.
eBay. There
Yeah.
were plenty of copies going the other day. So I was going to say, but interesting that you switched to the soundtrack because I was going to say, actually, I didn't mean to like set you up in a way, but I think it'd be hard to say much about the score because I feel like for having a famous composer like Elmer Bernstein, the score in this was really underutilized. When I got to the end of the movie, and I did spend a little time listening to the score afterwards, but when I got to the end of the movie, I realized I had not really, like, none of the score music had really stood out to me. And then kind of a second, I didn't rewatch the whole thing, but I rewatched a little bit of it. There's parts where I'd be like, oh, okay, there's the score music. But really, it seemed like the focus was on the soundtrack. The kind of running theme through the movie was the first little bit, the of that's the first of the Champagne, the Salt and Pepper song, that was sort of the lead single from the soundtrack. This seemed like one of those movies, and this happened a lot around this time in the 90s, where like they really wanted to push the soundtrack a lot. And so I feel like the score kind of went almost kind of like James Caan, a little underutilized here.
Yeah, it almost seems like that tracks with what was happening in the industry in as the late '90s progressed. It did seem. I remember when it even got to the point where the scores for movies were so.
Oh yeah.
Plays so secondary that
Yes.
That they would rather instead use just use art like in this case, like Salt and Pepper or other actual general billboard artists and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
they put that music in there. And sometimes for the in the commercials and trailers, this happened. This didn't last super long, but I remember there in the late '90s, they would basically they would make it a point to really push who was featured on the soundtrack, which contributed artists and everything. And that's kind of sad though, because there's as you have said, I have also have started to get an ear just for the score instead of movies and everything now. And I gotta tell you, I myself felt this one didn't really stand out like some others did, and like I said, yeah, kind of underutilized here, but I'm thinking it may have been because this was the era where a lot of the industry was seeing the opportunity in pushing soundtracks featuring big label artists and such.
Yeah, and this soundtrack was certainly that. I mean, this soundtrack it peaked at 85 on the Billboard 200, and it got all the way up to number 23 on the R&B hip hop Billboard tracks or charts. So soundtrack seems to have done pretty well for itself. Not number one by any means, but it did pretty well. And it had 5 charting singles, by artists. Some of the artists I didn't recognize. Now, that might just be because my lack of knowledge, but definitely Salt and Pepper had that song Champagne, which I said, almost felt like the running theme for the film. It would play a lot, just the little instrumental part. And also Casey and JoJo had a song on the soundtrack. They were really big at the time. So it definitely seemed like that. And it's funny how you just said that about scores. I definitely agree with you. It feels like, and maybe it was just my impression, but it feels like there was a time in sort of the late 90s, early 2000s when like scores, films still had scores, but it was like the film scores were in we're in sort of a drought because so much focus was on the soundtrack. And I feel like, as a movie score fanatic, that it kind of bums me out. But they're starting to make more of a comeback now. You have movies that have really recognizable scores nowadays, like Hans Zimmer, obviously still out there killing it. He's doing stuff like, and I never can remember which ones he's done of the newer movies, but a lot of the Christopher Nolan movies have very recognizable standout scores. I remember thinking that the score for the new Dune movies was particularly good, which I think is Hans Zimmer. Could be wrong about that. Don't get mad at me if I am. So I agree with you. There was definitely a slump in film scores at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, great. So I have just here to say, did you have any final thoughts about this film, just to kind of sum things up about 1996's classic? Not really, but fun popcorn movie, Bulletproof.
Not really. Not that, like I said, this one, it was a fun first watch. It's not one that, will have, you never know about these things after you've watched it the first time. Maybe you'll get to want to watch it again right after. It's I don't know I don't think it's going to be one that's in my my rotation, so to speak, of movies that I'll watch over and over again. It's a little bit more difficult to acquire now, unless you were to purchase it, using either purchasing it in physical media forms on Blu-ray or DVD, or just renting it via Amazon. I will say this: I am looking forward to picking up the other one. I believe it was The Last Boy Scout. That's one I haven't seen, and I want to watch it and compare it to this one, especially. So
it might not. It'll probably fare pretty well in comparison to this one, The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah. But I would definitely say rediscover for anyone. For a lot of folks out here. Definitely try to dig up some of old. There's a lot of old clips of In Living Color all over YouTube. All you have to do is type in Damon Wayans In Living Color. You'll get some funny stuff there. The Seminole stuff you absolutely do have to watch with these. With this cast, I'd say, for Adam Sandler's, of course, Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. His comedy albums, as mentioned earlier, They're All Gonna Laugh at You, What the Hell Happened to Me. You can find those a lot of places. And for as far as Damon Wayans goes, Major Pain is it's a must see, must watch. Good. It's on my list. I'd recommend it
if he's
to
in
anybody.
There, he ain't happy.
Gosh, that's a absolute must see there. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Cool. Yeah, I tend to agree with you in a lot of those places. This is a movie that for me, I liked as a teen, and I had fun rewatching it for the podcast. Certainly not one like you said. It's certainly not one that's a must see. It's not one that is a swing and a miss for me. It's also certainly not a swing and a home run either. It's just sort of a formula. It's straightforward. If you want to watch a movie and have some laughs and have some nice little action scenes and turn off your brain for a little while, you could do a lot worse than this movie. But it's certainly not one of the great classics of buddy cop films. It's just sort of it's one that I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad to have revisited it. Not a swing and a miss, not a home run, just sort of a nice little fun flick for a rainy afternoon maybe. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. So I will say this, couple of final things. It did receive a sequel, a straight-to-video sequel in January of 2020. Bulletproof 2.
Straight to video.
neither Sandler nor Wayans, of course, returned to the roles, but it did receive a sequel. I only found out about that in researching for this episode, so I cannot speak to the sequel. Siskel and Ebert, who I definitely don't always see eye to eye with their reviews of stuff. Siskel and Ebert gave this film a very negative coverage and said that it was formulaic, but they did at least seem to give some credit to Sandler's performance, which is nice and kind of what we were saying as well. But yeah, a fine film, if not a great film. Last thing I want to do is maybe a recurring segment that I did last time, and it's time for buddy cop crossovers. I didn't find nearly as many in this as I did in 48 Hours, but I did find some. So Damon Wayans is in The Last Boy Scout, which, like I said, I really like quite a bit. And also he came back to fill the role of Roger Murtaugh in the Lethal Weapon television series that ran from 2016 to 2019. I haven't seen the whole thing. I watched some of that, and I thought he was actually pretty good in that. I think he grew more into his straight man role and was pretty good in that from what I remember. So you've got Damon Wayans there. You've got James Caan, who was in one of the OG original buddy cop films, Freebie and the Bean, back in the 70s. And he also had a role in Alien Nation. You have Bill Nunn, who played the DEA agent in this, and he was in National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. And you have the Bad Guy Mansion, which was apparently in Beverly Hills Cop as the Bad Guy Mansion, and also apparently in Last Action Hero as the Bad Guy Mansion as well. So those are my buddy cop crossovers for this time. All right, so that wraps up Bulletproof 1996. Donnie, anything you want to plug? Anywhere that the good people at home can check you out online, on the socials, anything like that?
Well, right now I have a Letterboxd account that is basically where where I've got a lot of lists of some of the movies I've watched and a lot of the movies that I'm watching. I've got a couple lists on there. Basically, if you go through, you'll see like my list of movies that feel underrated to me. You'll see a list of the biggest movies that I have never seen. And I've actually got a few movies on that list I get to cross out because, like I said, I did finally get to see Casablanca recently, and that's on that list. Got a couple other fun things, and encourage anyone to want to go on there and take a look at all the things that I've been watching or all the things that might be interested in watching if you're looking for some ideas on what to watch yourself. So that's probably about the best place. I am under, it's listed as D Chardin. So DCHARDIN at Letterboxd, whatever. But you'll probably find me under that, and that's where I've actually got to do a good deal of updating to it myself because there's been a few things I've seen or want to see that I need to add to the list. So, but that's probably about the best place to find me.
I will say I find that you have some really unique and interesting lists, so I definitely would encourage the people to check that out. I've always found some of your lists to be pretty interesting ideas that I wouldn't have thought of. I didn't think of this last week, but I'm also on Letterboxd as well. I can't remember my username right now. I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, I've got it pulled up right here. I'm definitely Wes Clifton, but am I Cliff Weston? Oh no, I'm the Strongbow, the _Strongbow on there. So that's how you'll find me on there. Probably should have went with Cliff Weston if I was thinking about it, but who knew? So I'm on Letterboxd as well. And you can find me at Cliff Weston on Instagram. And you can follow our podcast at Steak and Shake Pod on Instagram. So it's STAKE, Steak and Shake Pod, because Steakhouse and Shakedowns was just far too long. The other thing I'll say, once again, is that you can go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, if you're having a good time, leave us a nice rating, a nice review. It really helps us out a lot. Another thing that would really help us out a lot is if you would tell a friend. If you're like, hey, I've got this podcast, I think it'd be great for your morning commute. That also helps us to get the word out. So thanks a lot, everyone. We will see you next time. And until then, y'all be cool. Right on.